Hogan flexes Commission muscle against Trump tariffs. Europe is arming itself for a more lawless world of trade, and the bloc's sights are on the US.EU Trade Chief Phil Hogan has sought an upgrade to EU legislation on enforcing international commercial rules. His proposal would allow the EU to impose sanctions against countries that illegally restrict commerce and simultaneously block the World Trade Organization's dispute settlement process. The timing of the initiative in Brussels is no coincidence. On Wednesday, the WTO's much-prized appellate body ceased to be able to handle new cases because a US veto of any appointments left it without the minimum 3 members required for verdicts. The body is the WTO's supreme authority, issuing binding decisions that give winning parties in disputes the right to apply trade penalties such as higher tariffs against lawbreaking countries.Since before Donald Trump's presidency. The US has accused the appeals panel of overstepping its mandate and has demanded changes to the body's practices. The EU is asserting itself more in a bid to prevent Mr. Trump's America First agenda and protectionism from undermining the rules-based global order to which Europe is committed. Over the past 3 years, Mr. Trump has angered Europe by hitting its steel and aluminium with tariffs based on controversial national security grounds, dangled the threat of similar levies on foreign cars, and drawn up plans to target French goods with levies as retaliation over a digital tax in France. The US president has also sought to restrict European trade with Iran after pulling out of an international agreement to control the country's nuclear activities and backed out of a landmark United Nations accord to fight climate change. The US steel and aluminum duties, introduced in 2018, prompted the EU to complain to the Geneva-based WTO. The bloc also scrambled to put its own trade defenses in place for steel to prevent the US levies from diverting global shipments to the European market and flooding it. The amended EU legislation Mr. Hogan put forward comes under 2 weeks after he took office as part of a new leadership team at the European Commission, the bloc's executive arm, under President Ursula von der Leyen. The proposal, which requires the support of EU governments and the European Parliament in a process that will last into next year, has political momentum. The bloc's national leaders are, this week, asking its legislative actors to examine, as a matter of priority, the Commission's proposal. The government chiefs are also due to express support for a stopgap arbitration system that the Commission is pursuing with EU trade partners such as Canada and China pending any revival of the WTO appellate body. The proposal from Mr. Hogan, an amendment to 2014 European legislation, would effectively serve as a third line of defense. For more on this story, visit the news article link.